You wake up in the morning and something feels off. The response you used to count on is weaker, slower, or gone altogether. Blood flow doesn't feel the same. Firmness doesn't arrive when you expect it. And quietly you start telling yourself, this is just what getting older feels like. I'm a board-certified urologist, and for years I've sat across from men over 60 who thought the same thing. Men who felt frustrated, confused, and a little embarrassed to even talk about it. My role isn't to lecture you, it's to listen and to guide you, because there's one common detail most men overlook, and it changes everything. Tell me where you're watching from, and if this matters to you, stay with me. But here's what most people don't realize. When erections start to weaken after 60, it's rarely because you're not trying hard enough. It's because something deeper has quietly shifted inside your body, an internal environment you never feel. Benefit 1. Blood flow. Boost never see and were never taught to think about. This isn't about tricks, positions, or forcing performance. It's about the foundation your body is working from. And as we age, effort alone stops working when the foundation underneath it has changed. I see this pattern constantly in my practice. Men who eat well, stay active, and still wonder why their response feels unpredictable. What they're missing is how acid balance influences circulation at the most basic level. And that brings us to the first benefit. Benefit number 1 is improved blood vessel relaxation. This matters because erections are not about desire alone. They are a physical event driven by blood vessels opening fully and staying open long enough to do their job. Inside your arteries, the smooth muscle lining needs to relax on command. When your internal chemistry shifts toward a more acidic state, those muscles stay tense. Think of it like trying to push water through a stiff hose instead of a flexible one. The blood arrives slower, pressure drops faster, and firmness fades before you want it to. When blood vessels can relax properly, blood enters more easily, stays longer, and creates the firmness and staying power men often feel they've lost. This isn't about excitement, it's about physics inside your body. Benefit number 2 is better nitric oxide availability. This matters because nitric oxide is the signal that tells your blood vessels to open in the first place. Without enough of it, your body wants to respond, but the message never fully gets through. Nitric oxide is produced naturally in your blood vessel lining. But here's what many men don't realize. Its production and effectiveness depend heavily on the environment it's released into. In a more acidic internal state, nitric oxide breaks down faster and works less efficiently. That means even if your desire is there, the signal weakens before it reaches the tissue that matters. For men over 60, this often shows up as delayed response, partial firmness, or erections that fade quickly. When nitric oxide is available and stable, blood flow becomes smoother, faster, and more reliable. That's when erections feel more natural again, not forced or unpredictable. Benefit number 3 is reduced internal inflammation. This matters because inflammation quietly interferes with every step of the erection process. Most men think of inflammation as joint pain or swelling, but inside your blood vessels, it creates resistance. Inflammation irritates the vessel walls, making them less responsive and less flexible. When that happens, blood flow becomes turbulent instead of smooth. The signal from your brain reaches the pelvis, but the tissue can't fully respond. Over time, this leads to inconsistency. Some days things work, other days they don't. And that unpredictability is what damages confidence the most. When internal inflammation is reduced, blood vessels respond more cleanly, signals travel without interference, and erections become more consistent. Not perfect every time, but dependable enough that you stop worrying about whether your body will cooperate. What's important here is understanding that none of these benefits work in isolation. Blood vessel relaxation, nitric oxide availability, and inflammation control are all connected. They're part of the same internal system. And after 60, that system becomes more sensitive to small imbalances. That's why men often say, I'm doing everything right, so why isn't it working? It's not that you're doing something wrong on the surface, it's that the environment underneath has shifted just enough to change the outcome. This is why chasing performance without addressing foundation leads to frustration. You can stimulate more, plan more, or try harder. But if the internal conditions aren't supportive, so ain't palms ourselves, or your body will always feel one step behind. Once men understand this, the confusion starts to lift. The problem stops feeling mysterious or personal. It becomes mechanical, and mechanical problems have solutions. But this foundation only works if you avoid the next mistake most men make. But here's the mistake most seniors make. They separate energy from erections as if they're two different systems. They tell themselves, I'm just tired or I don't have the drive I used to, without realizing that erections don't start in the bedroom. They start with how much usable energy your body has available long before that moment. For men over 60, energy is not a bonus. It's a prerequisite. Without it, response slows down, motivation fades, and timing feels off, no matter how strong the desire is. In my clinic, I hear this almost every day. Men say, "Doc, some days I feel fine, other days nothing works." What they're really describing is fluctuating energy at the cellular level. That brings us to benefit number 4. Benefit number 4 is improved cellular energy production. This matters because erections are one of the most energy-demanding processes in the male body. At the smallest level, your cells rely on tiny energy factories called mitochondria. These structures create the fuel your muscles, nerves, and blood vessels need to respond quickly. As we age, those energy factories slow down. When energy production drops, your body starts prioritizing survival over performance. Blood flow gets redirected, signals weaken. That's why erections often feel delayed, softer, or require more effort to maintain. It's not a lack of desire. It's your body conserving energy. When cellular energy improves, response becomes quicker and more complete. The body no longer hesitates. It has enough fuel to follow through. Benefit number 5 is reduced muscle fatigue in pelvic tissue. This matters because erections are not passive events. The pelvic floor muscles actively trap blood inside the penis to maintain firmness. Think of them like a support system holding pressure in place. Over time, and especially with low energy, these muscles fatigue faster. When they can't sustain contraction, blood leaks out too soon. That's when men experience erections that start strong but fade quickly. Muscle endurance depends on energy availability and proper chemical balance. When pelvic muscles are supported, they can hold blood where it belongs. The result is better staying power and less anxiety about losing firmness halfway through. Benefit number 6 is better oxygen delivery to erectile tissue. This matters more after 60 than most men realize. Oxygen isn't just for breathing. It's essential for blood vessel health and nerve signaling. Erectile tissue relies on a steady supply of oxygen-rich blood to respond and recover. When oxygen delivery drops, tissue becomes less responsive and slower to react. Over time, this creates a cycle where erections feel weaker and less reliable. The mechanism is simple. When circulation improves and oxygen reaches the tissue efficiently, nerves fire more clearly and blood vessels respond more smoothly. For men over 60, this often translates into better response speed and erections that feel more natural, not forced. What ties all of this together is the realization that energy isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about biological readiness. You can want intimacy deeply, but if your cells, muscles, and blood vessels are running on empty, your body won't cooperate the way you expect. This is why men often blame stress, age, or confidence, when the real issue is energy availability. Once men understand this connection, something shifts. They stop seeing their body as broken and start seeing it as underpowered. And that's an important distinction. A broken system feels hopeless. An underpowered one can be restored. But this is also where many men go wrong. They try to force energy with stimulants, supplements, or shortcuts that temporarily mask fatigue instead of supporting the underlying systems. They feel a brief boost followed by another crash, and that roller coaster only makes erections more unpredictable over time. And this is where most men think they're helping themselves, but aren't. But here's what most people don't realize about hormones. They don't work the way most men think they do. Testosterone doesn't flip a switch and magically create erections. Hormones respond to the environment they're released into. And when that internal environment is off, even normal hormone levels stop doing what they're supposed to do. This is why blaming testosterone alone leaves so many men confused and disappointed. I see this constantly. Men come in holding lab results, pointing at a number and asking why things still don't feel right. What they don't realize is that hormones are messengers, and messengers can only deliver their signal if the receiving system is ready. That brings us to benefit number 7. Benefit number 7 is improved testosterone responsiveness. This matters because testosterone only works when your cells can actually respond to it. Inside, your tissues are receptors that act like locks, and testosterone is the key. With age and with internal imbalance, those locks become stiff and less sensitive. The key still fits, but it doesn't turn smoothly. When receptor sensitivity drops, desire fades, erections feel weaker, and recovery takes longer. It's not because testosterone is gone. It's because the message isn't being heard clearly. When the internal environment improves, those receptors regain sensitivity. The same amount of testosterone suddenly feels more effective. Men often notice stronger desire, quicker response, and firmer erections without any dramatic changes in hormone levels. The signal simply starts landing again. Benefit number 8 is reduced cortisol interference. This matters because cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and it directly competes with sexual function. Cortisol is designed to keep you alert and alive, not relaxed and responsive. When cortisol stays elevated, it narrows blood vessels, dampens nerve signaling, and tells your body that intimacy is not a priority. For men over 60, chronic low-level stress is incredibly common. Poor sleep, financial worries, health concerns, and even frustration about performance itself keep cortisol elevated. The explanation is simple. When stress hormones dominate, the body shifts resources away from erections. Desire may still be there mentally, but the body stays guarded. When cortisol interference is reduced, blood flow improves, nerves respond more clearly, and erections feel less forced. The body finally receives permission to relax into the moment. What's important here is understanding that hormones don't act in isolation. Testosterone, cortisol, and other signals are constantly interacting. When the internal environment is supportive, these signals work together. When it's not, they work against each other. This is why some men feel fine one week and completely off the next. The balance shifts and the body responds accordingly. This reframing is powerful. It removes shame. It removes the idea that something is permanently broken or missing. Instead, it shows that your body is responding logically to the conditions it's given. Change the conditions and the response changes too. Many men spend years chasing hormone numbers, injections, or quick fixes without ever addressing why those hormones aren't being heard in the first place. And that's why results often feel inconsistent or short-lived. Hormones are not the driver. They're the passenger reacting to the road conditions underneath. Once men understand this, they stop fighting their bodies and start working with them. They regain a sense of control and clarity. The mystery fades, the frustration softens, and confidence begins to return, not because of hype, but because the system starts making sense again. But hormones are only part of the story. Timing is everything. But here's what most men don't realize about sleep. Nighttime isn't just when you rest. It's when your body decides how well it will function the next day. For erections, especially after 60, the night is not passive, it's active repair time. And if that repair window is disrupted, morning response is usually the first thing to suffer. This is why many men notice changes in the morning long before they notice them anywhere else. In my practice, I often ask men a simple question. How do you feel when you wake up? Not how long they slept, but how restored they feel. Because erections, circulation, and energy are all rebuilt at night. That leads us to benefit number 9. Benefit number 9 is improved sleep time recovery. This matters because your body performs most of its repair work while you're asleep. During deep sleep, blood vessels reset their tone, hormones rebalance, and tissues recover from daily stress. Think of it like maintenance on a complex machine. If that maintenance window is shortened or inefficient, small problems accumulate for erectile function. This means blood vessels don't fully relax, nerves don't recover completely, and tissues remain slightly inflamed. The explanation is simple. At night, your nervous system shifts into repair mode. Blood pressure lowers, inflammation reduces, and circulation patterns normalize. When this process works properly, you wake up with better readiness. Men often notice improved firmness, faster response, and less stiffness overall, not because they did something in the morning, but because their body finished its work overnight. Benefit number 10 is better morning circulation reset. This matters because morning erections are one of the clearest signs of vascular health. They're not about desire or arousal. They're a reflex created by healthy blood flow and nerve signaling. During sleep, especially in the later stages, blood is directed toward erectile tissue repeatedly. This keeps vessels flexible and responsive. When circulation resets properly overnight, blood vessels open easily in the morning. When it doesn't, that response weakens or disappears. The biology behind this is straightforward. Healthy vessels respond to pressure changes smoothly. Unhealthy or stressed vessels stay rigid. For men over 60, the presence or absence of morning response often reflects how well the vascular system is functioning overall. When Circulation resets correctly. Erections feel more spontaneous and less dependent on stimulation later in the day. What's important here is that nighttime sets the tone for everything that follows. Men often focus on what happens in the moment, but the body decides its readiness hours earlier. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired, it keeps your nervous system in a guarded state. Blood vessels stay tense, hormones stay slightly off balance, and erections feel like work instead of a natural response. This is why men sometimes say, "Some mornings I feel normal again." That's not random. That's the body telling you it had a good repair cycle. And when repair cycles stack up, consistency returns. When they don't, unpredictability takes over. The mistake many men make is assuming sleep problems are separate from sexual health. They're not. They're deeply connected. Nighttime is when the body recalibrates its systems. Miss that window repeatedly and performance suffers quietly and gradually support it properly, and the body begins to cooperate again without force. This is also why quick fixes during the day often disappoint. They don't address what happened the night before. They try to override a system that hasn't been restored yet. And that's never a long-term solution. Once men understand the role of nighttime repair, the picture becomes clearer. Erections aren't failing randomly. They're reflecting how well the body is recovering and resetting. And that realization alone brings relief. It turns confusion into understanding. Now, here's what most doctors never explain about using this safely. I want to pause here with you for a moment because this is usually the point where men start to feel something shift, not excitement, relief. That quiet sense of, so, it wasn't just me. I think back to how this started, waking up and realizing your body didn't respond the way it used. 2. Feeling that small but heavy doubt settle in, wondering when aging quietly took control without asking permission. That frustration is real, and it's something I've heard in this room many times. What matters most is this: nothing you felt means you're broken. Nothing about this means your best years are behind you. Your body hasn't betrayed you. It's been responding very logically to conditions that change slowly over time. And when conditions change, responses change too. That's not failure, that's physiology. As a physician, what I want you to take away is a sense of calm confidence, the kind that comes from understanding, not forcing. When men understand what's actually been happening inside their bodies, the shame lifts, the pressure eases, and control begins to return. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily and predictably. This is about dignity, about trusting your body again instead of fighting it. When you stop seeing this as an irreversible decline and start seeing it as a system that can rebalance, something powerful happens. You move out of fear and back into self-trust. And that's where real change always begins. If this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to stay connected. This channel exists for men who want clear, honest guidance without fear or exaggeration. Subscribing isn't about notifications or algorithms. It's about choosing to understand your body instead of guessing at it. You deserve that clarity. You deserve calm confidence as you move forward. In the next video, we'll continue this conversation by addressing one overlooked factor that quietly influences everything we discussed today. Until then, take this understanding with you. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to figure it out in silence.